In this episode, we're going to tear down an old Alarmforce alarm system. This was one of the first of the two-way voice, if not the first two-way voice system in Canada. Anybody in Canada probably remembers their jingle. So in this episode, we're going to tear down what was known in the industry as the bread box. This is a home security system. It's one of the first ones out by a company that is no longer around. Well, they were bought out by the big telecoms. But the company was Alarmforce. This was the box that they used. Were their commercials. Their singing phone number commercial.
Call 1-800-267-2001.
Anyway, this was the product that they had, property of Alarmforce Industries, because you didn't own it, you just leased it from them. And as you can see, this was made in Canada. We're going to tear this one down and take a look at it. I'm sure the battery's dead and this thing has been sitting for months. Or it's probably it might even be disconnected. I may have disconnected the battery. This was these old units. The company I work for, we purchased Alarmforce. It was one of our first acquisitions in security when we went into the home security business, and we've since purchased other companies, including ADT. So the first order of business was to take all this old obsolete crap out and replace it with modern stuff, because these old units required that that you had to have a home phone for this to work. And of course, the more modern ones came out that could work on cellular, but the ones that we have now, they're all 100% cellular. So we've gone to the point of swapping out all these old units, and I thought it would be kind of cool before this thing goes to the recycle bin to tear it down and just see what exactly is in this unit. Now, I tore down one of the Alarm Care products before, which was the seniors help pendant, where if they would fall or needed help, they could push a button, and it would have worked similar to this. This is the one that was for the alarm system. And how this worked, you can tell it's made in Canada because they use real screws, as in real Robertson screws, to put it together. Anyway, this one here would have worked with sensors, motion detector, and window contacts, magnetic contacts, and a remote keypad. And basically, you armed and disarmed the system via the keypad, and the system would actually connect to the alarm monitoring station. And it was a two-way voice. I think it was probably one of the first two-way voice systems that was on the market, and that allowed the alarm monitoring company to challenge if the alarm were to go off. So for example, if you set off your alarm, it would dial in to the monitoring station. First of all, it would set off a relatively loud siren. Look at the size of the speaker. I'll be keeping the speaker. It's got a microphone in the front here. There's the microphone. But it would set off a loud alarm on this plastic speaker, and then it would make a connection. They would come on, two-way voice, and challenge whoever was in the premise. This is the antenna for the sensors to detect the alarm sensors themselves. So they would come on and challenge whoever was there. So there would be voice would come on and say, "This is the Alarmforce Central Station. The police have been notified. Identify yourself." So in the scenario, the alarm goes off and you've accidentally set it off yourself. The speaker comes on and they come on and they say, "This is Alarmforce. Identify yourself." And you say, "Well, yeah, it's Dave." And they say, "Okay, Dave, what's your password?" You say, "Yeah, my password is pink lemonade." And they say, "Okay, perfect. You're pink lemonade. You're good to go." But say someone broke into my house and the alarm is wailing away, and the guy comes on and they say, well, this is the Alarmforce Central Station. Identify yourself. The guy says, well, it's Dave. Okay, Dave, what's your password? Your safe word. He says, oh, it's 12 volt, which is of course not what it is. And the alarm guy on the other end would say, okay, no problem. We'll cancel this alarm. Sorry, and they would disconnect. And at that point, they're already on the phone with the police, informing the police that there was an alarm. They two-way voice challenged, and the person did not have the correct password, the correct passcode. The same as there was a duress code set up so that, for example, if someone was holding a knife to your throat and you set off the alarm, you could punch in a code that would indicate that you were under duress. They would come on and talk to you and ask you for if you were okay, and you'd give them your duress code, which would of course then notify them that something was serious and that you needed help right away. Anyway, this is the board. Pretty impressive. I'm just going to get that plug out of there. So I like this. Look at the speaker. The speaker is actually just held in place by quick connects. This is an 8 ohm 10 watt speaker. It's a plastic speaker. Be probably pretty tinny, but it's designed, of course, to make lots of noise. But I bet you for voice use, I don't know it's going to have a lot of bass, but it's got a plastic diaphragm on here. But I know that when the alarms went off on these things, they were bloody loud. Like you could hear them out on the street. They were so loud. 8 ohms, 10 watts. Here's the board. Let's get a look at the board here in all its glory. Made in Canada. And I'm sure it says on here somewhere that it is in fact made in Canada, because they did make all of these here in Canada. Yeah, Alarmforce Industries Incorporated right there. Even has their own stencil on the board. But look at the quality of this. It's got the battery back up, the battery switch to turn it on and off. It's got I think that's the volume control. You could adjust the volume on it. Surface mounted capacitors on it, like the ones that we love to hate. A couple of regulators on here. I'll definitely be keeping the regulators off of this one before this unit goes into recycling. In fact, for that matter, the ICs are all socketed. Look at that, I mean, this is obviously going to be a custom pick that has all the operating firmware for the unit. And then one will be probably the dialer for the phone, and be one for control. This will be one for control. Basically, it's a half duplex system. So how it works is when it dials in, it first sends out its unique identifier over the phone line. There's the transformer to isolate the phone line, and an optocoupler down here to isolate the phone line from the circuitry on here. It first squawks out its identifier to the monitoring station to identify the account that it belongs to, and then the operator uses tones, like a touch tone on their phone, for when they want to talk. They're in listen mode, and when they want to talk, they send out a tone, which then turns the microphone off and turns on the speaker so that they can talk to the person, and then they send another tone to go back into receive. So these units all operated in a half duplex, and the reason they did that was so that they could make them very, very loud and mute the speaker while the agent was listening, so that the agent could hear something that was far off in the distance. They could hear someone rummaging around in the house, or or if it was an animal that set the alarm off, they might hear Fido running around, or cat chasing something. You never know, but at least they could turn off the speaker, turn on the microphone, listen to what's going on, and then when they needed to talk, they pressed a button to talk. But anyway, I just figured I would show you guys the inside of this, because these days we don't see much electronics that's actually made here in Canada, and this was one such device that they made here. And as you can see, it's beautiful. The soldering is all beautiful. good high quality components that they've put in here. You know, Japanese relays. And we look on the back side of the board, and we can see on the back side again, you know, very, very good soldering. And then there's this other little board. We'll just remove this board. This is the radio board. Of course, smaller screwdriver. We'll just use this one. And it just plugs in. Power, ground, data, and RDAT. Just to communicate with this little board here. I don't know where this came from. This may have been an in-house board, or this may have been one that they just contracted out. It tells you right here 12 volts, right? Data out RSS1. That'd be like a reset, I believe. And then all this does is this just receives the signal from the sensors and receives the signal from the keypad. And all it does, it's just receiving the signal and passing it on to this main controller, and everything would be handled in these chips here. These are what are programmed for all the zones and so forth that were programmed into the unit when it was set up. Anyway, I think that probably about does it for this one. There's not really a heck of a lot to talk about on this, other than the fact that this was a fairly reliable system. It was very well built, and it served the purpose for, you know, for many people for many years without fail. And the only reason that these are no longer in operation is, one, because a lot of people don't have a landline phone anymore, so a system was needed that would utilize a cellular network. So rather than try to outfit all these, when Alarmforce was bought out, the decision was made to retire all the older equipment and just swap it out for new equipment. And that's what this was done. That's what was done on this one. We swapped this one out for a new unit. But there you go. A little bit of Canadian history in the home alarm market. So I think we'll remove some of these parts that I'm going to hang on to, such as the regulators and probably the rectifier. I'm just going to use Mr. Heat Gun. Put on high power. That'll melt the solder a little quicker so that I can get on with my salvaging parts. Talk about a good board. I got this board hot as anything, and that part's still not coming out. Talk about a good board. This is a multi-layer board, and that was just plated all the way through. Get the board burning to get that part out of there. Ridiculous. We'll do the same for the others. That's the way to do it. Anything else I want to get out of here? Yeah, I'll take out this IC, the rectifier here. Yeah, as you can see, this was a really high quality board, and everything was plated all the way through, which makes removing through-hole components a little bit on the difficult side, but it can be done. All you need is a heat gun. As I say, the rest of these parts, I don't think there's much point. I could just use the heat gun and blow off all these other parts but I don't know that I really need to keep all these chip resistors. Now I know there's one thing you guys want to know is, how bad does this speaker sound? First of all, does it go loud? Yes, it does. How bad does it sound? Well, let's take a listen how bad it sounds. Let me just pick something else. So basically it's a mid-range or a tweeter, but I'd say mid-range. A mid-range with a really big magnet on it. Anyway, I just figured I'd let you guys hear that, because otherwise if I didn't play this, you'd be like, why didn't you let us hear how bad the speaker sounds? Probably sounds just as bad if I put it in the case here. How does it go together? Goes together kind of like that. Case might be worth keeping too, just for future projects. I might hang on to the case, just because, you know, that would be great for making a little power supply or something. Fan on this end here, right? Fan in place of the speaker. That, I think we'll hang on to the case, because that could be useful. Because like this side could be taken out. Yeah, you get the idea. Guess that's how it goes together. Oh, that sounds bad. But this unit here, it was designed for speech, to go very loud, and of course to have the sound of the wailing siren that was very loud and very, very ear-piercing. If you ever heard one go off, they were loud. And this thing, being the ugly duckling it certainly was not left out on display. This was hidden away in a closet, or you threw it under a couch, or you threw it in behind something, right, where you didn't have to look at this thing, because it was loud enough that you could hear it throughout the entire house. And that's what a lot of people did. They ended up putting it in a closet, having a phone line jack in the closet, and just putting it in there, or throwing it in their living room under the sofa or something, right, where you could hear it and didn't have to look at it. Anyway, because they weren't really nice to look at. Not like the new ones, where the new panels that we've got, they're like a tablet and they display photos and everything on them, and they're really cool. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.